David, it looked like we were going to get the rare sell-off in Lulu post-earnings, and now we're only 40 bips down after we got down to $282 at one point. So walk me through what's going on here.
Yeah, well, the stock certainly had incredible momentum before the quarter, and I think people were a little bit surprised that they actually saw a negative growth number for Lulu because it's so rare to see that. And so the initial reaction may have been negative, but I think people recognize now that really the number was pretty much what people expected, and that they had said some comments yesterday on the call that stores that had reopened were at productivity levels around 75 to 100%, which may have initially seemed to be negative, considering Lululemon's typically very productive stores, but I think they realized that maybe that's not so bad, and that they're going to build from that.
So the negative number on the growth side is pretty rare. How come the stock is doing so well? I mean, I know it's a great company from a brand perspective. People love it. It's been a clear winner in a world where retail is falling by the wayside, but it's just a monster run behind it. Without really a whole lot of news over the last 2 months, and I would think this would be a much bigger shock to the market. What's it going to take for the stock to drop?
Well, that's hard to say. We certainly think that it's extremely overvalued. My fair value estimate on it is $142.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm certain is by far the lowest of any analyst that covers the company, because we cannot justify this valuation. Lululemon is trading now at almost 60 times last year's earnings, and this year is going to be a down year for earnings. Looking ahead to 2021, Lululemon could earn maybe about $6 a share, and the stock is at $300. I mean, so it's extremely expensive. To give you some more perspective on that, Lululemon's market cap right now is about $40 billion, and Adidas's market cap is about $55 billion. And Adidas is more than 5 times the size of Lululemon. So this is an extremely expensive stock, and clearly it's a lot of momentum. It's always been sort of a cult stock going back many years, and that's certainly the case right now.
Yeah, this is, I think, something really interesting here, and I like the perspective next to other companies on the size, because it's almost like Lulu has become, and this is just kind of from a perspective of a journalist and the narrative around it. I know it may not change the fundamental value, but it seems like Lulu has kind of like become the way for investors to just play a retail or apparel stock when there are fewer options, like by the day, and bankruptcies going around. Are those events, bankruptcies, and brand deterioration at other places expanding the potential market cap for the addressable market for Lulu? I mean, is this a company that can grow into its valuation over time?
Well, the addressable market certainly is very large in comparison with Lululemon, which has annual sales around $4 billion. So, I mean, there still is a lot of potential. However, the growth rates that Lululemon has historically put up, 20% plus growth consistently, are just not realistic in the long term for an apparel retailer. For one thing, Lululemon now has stores in basically every major metro area in North America, and that wasn't the case a few years ago. So there have been a lot of places that simply did not have Lululemon stores that now do have them. And so a lot of the growth is going to have to come from international territories, and that's very much uncertain. I think a lot of excitement is just because Lululemon has extremely high sales per square foot. It's probably the highest of any retailer in North America in apparel. And people think that they can continue that even as the stores get larger and even as they open more stores.
How many stores can they open? How much do they need to when so much of their direct-to-consumer and online is a part of their success story?
Mm-hmm. Well, that is an interesting point. I mean, at this point, Lululemon just opened 4 stores in a quarter. And originally, going into this year, I anticipated Lululemon would open about 40 stores. And right now, that seems very unlikely they're going to reach that number. And I think, over time, over the next 10 years, Lululemon can grow from about 500 stores to maybe 900 or so. But this is not going to be a company that's going to own thousands of stores. That's simply not the case. This is a specialty retailer. It's not a broad-based retailer. So there is some limit to the number of stores that Lululemon's going to have in any territory. And I think they're not that far from that limit in North America.
Is there anything clear on the horizon which will put the stock under pressure? Or is this just going to move as the market reopens? This seems like right now it's getting some of that bid that we see in the rest of this kind of cyclical comeback.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lululemon had two exceptional years in 2018 and 2019 and was doing very well in 2020 before the pandemic. But if you look back historically, this is a company that has had some difficult years in the past. Between the period about 2012 and 2015, Lululemon had minimal earnings growth in that period. It's really taken off the last couple of years, but I think people are kind of forgetting the fact that Lululemon has had some difficult years in the past, and there's no reason to think that it couldn't happen again. The current valuation kind of assumes that Lululemon can just continue to have great year after great year indefinitely, and that's just not that realistic. This is a company that has significant competition. I mean, clearly every other activewear company out there has noticed Lululemon's success, and they're all putting out their own leggings. They all have similar products, so it's not like Lululemon has a monopoly.